Welcome. This is Gary Sultan, Chief of R&D and creator of Iopt Technology. This video shows what Iopt strategic styles are and how they interact to create strategic patterns. Strategic styles are a name we gave to the basic information processing strategies we all use to address the issues in our lives. A strategic style is merely a pattern of behavior. We use patterns because they make our lives easier. For example, say you are involved in a decision to move something from here to there. You could decide to use the first method that comes to mind. Things will move fast. Or you may decide to use an established method. It worked before, it'll probably work again. This strategy buys you some certainty. Or you could choose to analyze the situation. This helps ensure efficiency and effectiveness. Or you could use a new untested approach. It may be a real winner and save a bunch. Maybe. Where do you start? Which is the right choice? Obviously, there is no right choice. The example gave no signal telling which way was best. The issue hasn't got a label. A majority of decisions we make do not have labels. Not only that, they come in all flavors and affect every part of our lives. So, how do we go about sorting this stuff out? Well, without a label, one strategy is as good as any other. You might as well start with the style that you most favor. We call this initial preference a dominant strategic style. It's the principal strategy you use to navigate life. But what if the situation excluded the use of your favorite strategic style? For example, we could have mentioned that the material being moved was radioactive waste. In our example, the favored reactive stimulator strategy of spontaneous action is excluded by common sense. So, what happens then? Well, you shift strategies. To where? Well, since the issue still does not have a label, you will probably move to your next most favored strategic style. In this case, it is the disciplined logical processor style. We call this second choice option your secondary style. What happens if your secondary style doesn't apply? Same logic. You just move to the next style in line. This will be one of your tertiary or peripheral styles. Since you don't use them as often, you are probably not as good at them as you are with your principal strategies. But they are there and available to you. Strategic styles can explain some of your behavior. For example, you may be confronted with the choice of two roads that lead to your destination. Any one of the four strategies will work. There's no need to go further. Style explains everything. But most situations do not involve a single approach. They are nested decisions. This happens all the time. For example, the woman in the picture must 1. Decide whether she is going to buy fruit, 2. Which kind of fruit to buy, 3. How many, and 4. Exactly which pieces. Each decision, to buy fruit, which kind, how many, and which pieces, is another decision. It is unlikely that the same strategic style will apply to all of them. For example, you may spontaneously choose to buy fruit. However, it is unlikely that you will then spontaneously choose which kind, and then spontaneously choose how many, and then spontaneously choose which pieces to buy. You are likely to shift strategies somewhere. If someone were to look at your fruit buying behavior, they and you would probably consider all of the decisions involved. The decision to buy fruit, which kind, how many, and which pieces would all enter into the picture. Iopt Technology has a way of handling decision sequences. First, start out with the strength of each style plotted on an Iopt grid. Then connect the peaks of each style. The result is a strategic profile. It describes the likelihood of a person displaying the entire range of behaviors generated by their choice of information processing strategies. Each quadrant in the profile generates a particular kind of behavior. The behaviors associated with each quadrant are called strategic patterns. They are a strategy for navigating a sequence of decisions. In effect, they typify your overall behavior. Patterns arise because of the way the Iopt grid is arranged. Each axis of a pattern complements its partner axis in a particular way. For example, both axes of the performer pattern favor action. The RS side uses spontaneous means. The LP side employs disciplined methods. When used together, things get done, hence the name, performer pattern. Each of these other quadrants show characteristic behaviors generated by the information processing that goes on in the axes of the adjoining styles. We have named the patterns to characterize the outcomes typically generated by the combination of these styles. This is an Iopt snowflake. It shows some, but not all, of the behaviors that you can expect from each strategic style and pattern. A transparency of a strategic profile can be overlaid on the snowflake, and the behavioral tendencies can be read off directly. If you overlay two profiles, you can see both similarities and differences between people. It is a useful tool. Finally, how strongly is the description in the various Iopt reports likely to resonate with you? Well, it depends. The more pointy your profile, the more likely it is that the descriptions associated with strategic styles will resonate with you. The reason is that, to get a pointy profile, you have to use a particular strategic style pretty heavily. If you use a style heavily, you are likely to see yourself in the descriptions of that style. If your profile is concentrated in a particular quadrant, you are likely to see yourself in the behavioral descriptions associated with a strategic pattern. In this example, the changer pattern. If your profile is spread out over several quadrants, the individual descriptions may not fully resonate, but in combination, they will probably have an overall ring of truth. In this case, you are likely to most vividly see the characteristics associated with the style that is common to the strategic patterns that are held. In this case, the logical processor style. Iopt technology offers a new way of looking at behaviors that we all display. It is based on our information processing choices. Every situation is different. Every situation demands sensitivity to different variables. Our individual strategies have to be different. In other places, Iopt technology is able to show that these differences are not only good, but they are vital to the effective functioning of groups and ultimately of our society. Every Iopt profile is right for the person using it. For others, effectively using that profile to serve common ends demands that we understand the process and each other. That is the purpose of this video. Thank you for viewing this video. If you want more information on Iopt, you can go to our websites at www.iopt.com or www.oeinstitute.org. Both sites have much more information on how Iopt can be used to improve the functioning of both groups and individuals. Thank you again for your interest in Iopt technology.